Wow, things have been challenging lately. Things have been challenging. I want to invite you to join me in taking a deep breath and exhaling fully. Give everything some space. Have things been challenging for you too? I know for some of you that I'm connected with, they have been. Some of you have been struggling with health issues for years, and some of you for months and months. And if you're lucky, then maybe you haven't been struggling with health issues at all. And you're watching for other reasons, which is totally cool. There's an overlap here between well-being and wellness and spirituality and holistic health. It all goes together in my world. But yeah, for me personally, it's been a challenging, let's see, 5 or 6 months. It's been challenging. It's been up or down, up and down. And I mean, it's been really challenging 10 or 12 years. And one of the big themes of these years for me has been getting well from things that there's no guarantee that anyone gets well from. And it's been scary at times. My kids have been going through this with me. They were little kids when it started. Now they're late teens and early 20s. And it's been a journey. It's been a journey. And so for those of you that struggle with chronic symptoms and you haven't gotten better, I definitely know what that's like. And yet I have continued to get better again and again. From things that there was nobody had a cure for me. Nobody had a cure. There was no thing that my insurance would pay for that we're going to get you on this track and get you better. I just had to try everything. And when I was trying everything and it seemed like some symptom was still hanging on for like 7 years, I had brain fog, mental fog, nerve pain for 7 or 8 years, heart palpitations for a year after that, tinnitus for years after that. But every time I kept going. And every time things get better, I think about the times that I went through and the doubt and the fear and the worry and the self-judgment and how that probably didn't help me. I mean, you got to forgive yourself for those things too. When you catch yourself doubting and fearing and judging yourself, it's okay. That's okay too. Don't judge yourself for that. But see if you can come back to breath and forgiveness and a sense of something greater than yourself, that somehow it's all okay, even if it doesn't feel okay now. And those things can be beneficial. I mean, what do you do when you're trying everything and some debilitating symptom, some symptom that you just don't want to live with, just keeps hanging on? What do you do then? Well, keep going, keep believing in the things that you believe will help you. I mean, if something isn't helping, then yeah, change it. I kept believing, for example, in diet, and I've changed my diet many times, but I have kept believing. It's like, what's the chicken soup for how I'm feeling? What's the thing that's gonna nourish me, to help me feel better? There's ancient wisdom that there's a plant for every illness, and so what is that for you? And it's more than that too. I mean, there's been times where I haven't been exercising. I found the exercise that works better for me. I used to run all the time. It became a little high impact. I needed to get blood to my core. I started doing leg lifts. I mean, just trying so many different things. And it's been hard with the tinnitus, however you pronounce it. It got better, and then I went to a music event, and it was bad again, and there was a lot of fear and doubt and shame and guilt and self-judgment and, oh no, now I've done it and it's not gonna get better. And so there's been ups and downs, but it's gotten better again, and I am happy with that. If you have, you know, a symptom in your head that's, you know, on a 1 to 10, it's off the charts, or it's a 10, you're going to be a lot happier with it if you start having it be somewhere between 1 and 5 most of the time, or somewhere between 1 and 3 most of the time on your subjective rating of, is it a 1 to a 10? You're going to be a lot happier if you start having 0s and 1s most of the time on a level of 1 to 10. Yeah, naturally you feel happier. And part of that journey for me has been choosing happiness in those moments where I was not pleased with what was going on. When I say happiness, you know, it's a deeper kind of thing, like not the superficial happiness that our culture tends to promote, but well-being, connection, self-forgiveness. I mean, it's a discipline. It's a discipline. I mean, I worked hard. I stretched myself to keep coming back to self-forgiveness, to believing that everything that happens somehow is a teacher to me on my journey of spiritual awakening. And I'm kind of naturally a skeptic, but I've seen the power of these things. If I can see it, almost anyone can see it. You can keep your skepticism and also know that there is ways to approach things holistically that we just haven't documented and understood well in our society, and that don't make anybody any money. I've changed the water that I drink. I've tried these transdermal patches have been amazingly helpful. I've worked with a frequency device that sends me frequencies. I've turned my Wi-Fi off at night in my house. I'm out here in the country where I'm away from other people's Wi-Fi. I have implemented a routine of exercise into my life over the past 10 to 12 years. Yeah, sometimes I do more, sometimes less. I've implemented healthy eating, sometimes I change, but all these things, and I know there's some of you out here that are doing, some of you out there are doing all these things and more, like ice baths, yoga, and you're saying, I'm doing everything and it's still not working. I'm still not feeling well. Well, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of environmental factors. There's a lot of things happening in the world today for opportunistic things to come in. And so, you know, we keep learning. We keep learning. I've been learning about detoxing my body. All kinds of things. I mean, I could do a whole hour on all the different things, but that's not really the point. I think my point is something like keep on believing. It's not exactly about belief either, because sometimes it's beyond your belief what can happen in terms of the changes, the transformations that can happen. And yet it does seem to me that belief systems play a role, especially when we feel stuck. And it's more than just belief systems, because stuckness is sometimes in the body, right? It's you know, trauma and things. And by the way, we all experience trauma. We all it's stored in the body. There's a wonderful book called The Body Keeps the Score. And there's so many things that help with trauma that also I've noticed help with chronic illness, and I wonder what that's about. You know, it's what it's about is that what I'm talking about is what I think is that our nervous systems, that is to say our mind body, holds on to things. And so we when we feel this stuckness, yeah, keep on believing, and we have to keep on doing our work to release the trauma. And with that release also comes an unlocking of the latent vital energies within ourselves and our ability for transformation. I mean, I'm saying these words to you, and I don't know if you know what I mean if you haven't experienced it. But when we do our psychological work and our spiritual work and our holistic work, these things, they synergize together to bring us to a different place in our life. I don't think that you can bring yourself to a different place in your life spiritually without experiencing some change in how you experience your health. I'm not saying that becoming, let's say, spiritually enlightened or orienting towards becoming spiritually enlightened is a cure for things, but it's transformative, and it will change your perceptions, your nervous system, and how you experience things. It's about how we deal with suffering, how we deal with the ways that we miss the mark as human beings, how we correct that. And the word sin, which is what Christianity is often about addressing, the forgiveness of sin. The word sin means to miss the mark in a certain translation. So how do we get things off the mark? And how do we forgive ourselves? How do we get forgiveness from our higher power? And in Buddhism, it's about addressing suffering, right? And you can still be a Christian and be a Buddhist, by the way. Maybe that's another lecture. But it's about addressing suffering as opposed to sin. And yet, the two are related, because I think that self-forgiveness, and by the way, how are you going to forgive yourself if you think that God will never forgive you? So when I say self-forgiveness, it's a process. It's connecting with that part of yourself that is closer to God. Identifying less with your ego, identifying more with your soul, and forgiving yourself for being a human being, for identifying with your ego, for thinking that you're separate from God. Forgive those thoughts, let them pass through. The self-hate, the guilt, the shame, the doubt, all those things. We don't have to push them away. Forgive them. Practice self-forgiveness as you observe them, and don't hold on to them. Don't push them away. Allow your humanness to be. It's all okay. So that's some of what's been truly helpful to me on this journey. And I'm sitting inside today. It's just so rainy. I've got a tarp out there, but for a few months I slept outside, and I spent as much time on the earth as I possibly could. And that was like a rite of passage for me. In fact, I ate very little, and I communed with spirit and with nature. And then towards the end of that time period, I actually did have a fast, and it was very transformative. In some ways, I wish I had documented that process more while I was doing it, but at some point I really was focused on me and not broadcasting out what was happening. and listening to myself, listening to God, listening to Spirit about what I need to do. And there's been hard days even recently, but there's been way, way, way better days. And I think it's important. If those of you who know me, you know that I'm a healthcare practitioner who has been through some things myself. And that's how, in some ways, that's how I think I bring value to people. Helping people with depression has been something that I've been skilled at. My clients who struggle with depression have experienced some transformation and relief and gratitude from their work with me. And I credit that largely to the fact that I've overcome depression. I've overcome years and years of depression. Even going further back, I mean, I'm going to make myself sound old here or something, but you know, there is some white in this beard. But yeah, going back decades, and I overcame quote unquote depression. I now put it in quotes because I know it's more than a psychiatric diagnosis. And faced that again with the tinnitus when it was bad, you know, it was ringing in my ears, and when it was, you know, so loud that I just, you know, I didn't know how I was going to exist like this. I said it'll get better, but then I said, what if it doesn't? And I think that question was helpful in some ways, because it was like, the question, what it implied is, am I going to forgive myself if it doesn't, for going around that loud music? You know, am I going to love myself? Am I going to accept myself? And conversely and paradoxically, those things are like essential to well-being. And you know, the thing is, it doesn't happen overnight. I think wellness and health can spring from a deeper well-being, and it carries forward. You know, you work for months and months on your well-being, your inner well-being, your self-forgiveness, and all these kind of things, as well as your physical health, your habits. And you work for months and months and months and years, and nothing seems to be working, maybe, and then at some point you seem to start feeling better. And you know, that work that you did months ago is a part of it. Those habits that you built. And so, you know, keep going and believe in the things that you're doing. If there's some research that shows that something helps 20% of the people and you think it might help you, have that as a part of what you're doing, a 20% part, right? Like when there's a 20% chance of rain, there's a 20% chance it might rain, or it might rain over 20% of the area that you're in. If something you're taking, there's research that shows it helps 20% of people, then maybe it'll help 20% of your problem. Think creatively about your belief systems, because there's a strength in what's called the placebo effect, right, in science, and there's some overlap with that placebo effect with your overall beliefs, belief in yourself. If you don't believe on some deep level that you deserve something, that you deserve wellness or love or connection, then, you know, maybe that's getting in the way of your healing. And it's a way of creating that placebo effect for yourself, creating that belief in your life and the things that you're doing for yourself. It's not just about believing in a pill, a little sugar pill or something. There's an expanded definition of the placebo effect related to studies of spontaneous remission from illnesses that are otherwise incurable. That the placebo effect includes kind of this whole health model of your life. This cairn, if you will. It's like a pile of rocks that marks a direction. And this includes your work and your family and your beliefs about yourself, all these things. And so I hope that's helpful. And I'll end the video soon, but hey, take a breath and let it all out and let it all be. It's all okay. It's all okay just the way it is. Sometimes that's the starting point for changing things. Sometimes that's the starting point for changing things. I hope that's helpful. I'd love to see your comments and questions. And if it's something you don't want to share publicly, hey, find me through the links, shoot me a message. By the way, I'm Tom Kirkham. I never introduced myself. I'm Tom Kirkham, and I'm on Big Island, Hawaii. But I also offer, work via the internet, so you can connect with me pretty much anywhere. And I hope that I'll see you on the next video and in the comments. Take care.